Welcome and thank you for joining me for this quiet journey into the past. In this story, we will take a long, gentle walk through medieval Europe. There will be no rush. We will move slowly, pausing often, noticing details, and lingering on the small things that made up ordinary life. Perhaps as you listen, you will feel your eyes grow heavy. Perhaps the slow rhythm of the words will carry you into sleep. That is perfectly fine. The past will still be here when you wake. Episode 22: The Medieval Sea. Ships, Ports, and Journeys. Part 2. If the ships are the veins of the sea, then the ports and harbors are its beating hearts, places where water and land embrace, where goods pour ashore and where voices mingle in a chorus of a dozen tongues. To walk into a medieval port is to step into a world larger than any inland town, alive with the creak of cranes, the cries of merchants, the crash of waves against piers, and the smell of salt, tar, fish, and spice all tangled together. The harbour itself is a marvel. Stone quays stretch into water, worn smooth by boots and cartwheels. Wooden piers jut out, their posts slick with seaweed, their planks echoing underfoot. Chains rattle, ropes whip, gulls dive shrieking upon scraps. Along the docks, barrels and bales stand in rows, wool bound for looms in Flanders, salt fish destined for monasteries, wine sloshing in casks, grain spilling from sacks. Merchants pace back and forth, cloaks whipping in wind, tallying goods with scribes scratching upon tablets or rolls of parchment. The sounds overwhelm. Cranes groan as pulleys creak, men shouting as they heave cargo up from ships. Sailors call in rough voices, captains bark orders, merchants bellow prices. Languages mingle: French, Dutch, German, Italian, Latin prayers from monks, English curses from dockside toughs. Bells toll from churches, mingling with clang of blacksmiths forging nails and hooks. The port is a song, rough and discordant, yet steady with rhythm. The smells are sharper still, tar boiling in pots for caulking ships, fish gutted upon stalls, their innards steaming in cold air, spices spilling from torn sacks, pepper, saffron, cinnamon so strong they sting nose and throat. Sweat of laborers, dung of horses, smoke of taverns, ale souring in gutters, all blend into a scent unlike any other. For inland folk, it is dizzying, overwhelming. For those who live by it, it is the perfume of life itself. Markets crowd the harbors, stalls of fish, stalls of cloth, stalls of bread, stalls of trinkets brought from far ports, shells and coral, amber beads, silk ribbons, glazed pots painted with bright patterns, all laid out beneath awnings that flap in sea breeze. Bargaining is fierce, coin clinking, hands slapping to seal deals. Children dart through legs, snatching scraps, begging coins, chasing dogs. Minstrels play fiddles, their songs half lost in din, For here coin flows faster than in any inland fare, and fortunes can be made or lost in a single ship's arrival. The taverns of the port are legends of their own. Doors swing wide, smoke pours out, music thunders. Sailors crowd benches, mugs clattering, dice rattling upon boards. Women serve ale, their voices sharp to cut through noise. Fights spark as quickly as laughter, knives drawn, chairs broken, then as quickly forgotten. Stories fill the air, storms survived, pirates fought, treasures glimpsed. Each tale grows taller with ale, each man louder, yet the tavern hum is as much part of port as the creak of ships outside. Ports are also places of faith and fear. Chapels stand by the water, their candles lit for safe voyages, their bells ringing as ships depart. Pilgrims gather, their cloaks patched, their staffs worn, waiting for passage to holy places. Shrines to saints are hung with sailors' tokens, bits of rope, carved ships, silver coins, oaths kept for safe return. Yet fear lingers. Bandits prowl outskirts, disease creeps in crowded lanes. Storms may scatter ships before they ever arrive. Prayers rise as swiftly as bargains are struck. The people of ports are as varied as their goods. Merchants in fur-trimmed cloaks stride beside beggars barefoot in mud. Sailors from distant lands share ale with locals, their accents thick, their songs strange. Jews and Christians bargain side by side, their coins the same though their prayers differ. Guildsmen guard their rights, toll collectors watch keenly, guards march with halberds to keep peace. The port is a crossroads where strangers meet, where stories are traded with goods, where the world grows larger with every tide. At night, the port glows with firelight. Torches burn along quays. Lanterns swing upon ships. Hearths roar in taverns. Shadows stretch long upon water, rippling with tide. The noise softens, but never fades. Crickets sing along ditches. Waves slap wood. Voices murmur through alleys. Lovers meet in corners. Thieves slip hands into purses. Sailors sleep upon planks, heads pillowed upon rope. The harbor never truly sleeps. It dozes, restless, stirred by each tide. And when dawn comes, the busset begins anew. Bells toll, gulls cry, ropes creak, anchors are raised, sails unfurl. Ships slide from harbor mouth, bound for horizons unseen. Others arrive, sails sagging, hulls barnacled, crews weary. Goods pour in and out, fortunes change hands, stories are born. The port is eternal, its rhythm older than memory, shaped by tide, fed by hunger, driven by hope. To stand in a medieval harbor is to stand in the world's doorway. Inland folk may know fields, woods, and markets, but here the horizon stretches beyond sight, and with it, possibilities. The port binds sea to land, stranger to neighbor, dream to coin. Its stones are worn smooth by countless feet, its air forever filled with cries and songs, its waters stirred by endless keels. To the sailor, the port is home. To the merchant, it is wealth. To the pilgrim, it is promise. To all, it is the meeting place of worlds. The sea may feed and carry, but it is never gentle for long. Every sailor, every fisherman, every child raised within sight of the surf knows this truth. The sea remembers no bargains. It can turn from calm to chaos in the span of a heartbeat. The same water that cradles a boat home one evening may rise to swallow it by dawn. In the medieval world, before weather charts or warning signals, this truth is sharper still. Storms and peril haunt every voyage, great or small. The first sign is often the sky. Morning may break fair, pale blue stretched across horizon, yet old sailors squint and mutter at the faint grey smear growing low in west. Clouds stack like dark castles, wind freshens sharp and sudden. Gulls wheel inland crying warnings. The smell changes too, salt sharpened, air heavy, damp with promise of rain. Sails snap restlessly, ropes groan, and a hush falls among crew as they feel the shift before a drop of water falls. Then comes the wind, gentle at first, then harder, tearing at sails, screaming through rigging. Men scramble aloft to reef canvas, tying it down before gusts tear it to ribbons. Orders are shouted, drowned by roar, ropes are hauled, blocks creak and crack. A good crew moves like one body, practiced and fast, but still the sea may prove stronger. Masts shudder, decks tilt, barrels roll, spray lashes faces, salt stings eyes, and every plank groans as though alive. Rain arrives in sheets, blinding and cold, the horizon vanishes, sky and water blur into one heaving grey. Decks grow slick, men slip, scramble, clutch ropes. Bilge pumps work furiously as water sloshes below. Lightning flares white, thunder crashes so close it shakes the hull. Some sailors cross themselves, others shout prayers, others only curse. Fear lives plain upon every face, for a ship is fragile against such rage, no matter how well built. The waves themselves become monsters. They rise black and gleaming, higher than masts, curling white at their tops. The ship climbs one wall of water only to plunge down the other side, timbers screaming, crew clutching whatever they can. Oars are useless, rudders strain, sometimes breaking outright. Water smashes over bow, tearing away crates, barrels, even men. Tethered lines snap, sails shred. In darkest moments, when lanterns fail and night falls, the sea becomes an endless void, roaring and invisible, its strength felt but unseen. Smaller boats, coracles, the fishing craft suffer worst. A single unexpected gust capsizes them. Families on shore sometimes watch helpless as loved ones vanish, boats rolling like toys in surf. Nets, barrels, and bodies may wash ashore days later, grim testimony. Villages mourn quietly, yet still go out next fair morning, for hunger waits for no grief. Even great cogs and carracks are not immune. Storms snap masts, tear sails, open seams. Water pours in faster than men can bail. Cargo is thrown overboard to lighten load, barrels of wine, sacks of wool, crates of grain, each a fortune lost, but lives perhaps saved. The captain prays while charting course by stars hidden beyond cloud, trusting memory and luck. Some ships run before storm, letting wind drive them where it will, hoping for safe landfall. Others heave to, bows turn to waves, anchors dragging deep to hold against drift. Both choices are gamble. Shipwreck is nightmare. Rocks loom suddenly from mist. A crunch shudders through hull, water floods black and freezing. Men leap, some clutching planks, some unable to swim, some dragged down by boots and clothes heavy with water. Those who reach shore crawl ashore exhausted, shivering, sometimes alone. Others vanish, names whispered later in mass, widows lighting candles. Coastal folk know to scan beaches after storms, gathering driftwood and cargo, praying they do not find familiar faces. Fear of the sea's wrath feeds stories. Sailors whisper of monstrous fish that rise in storms, of serpents longer than ships, of ghostly vessels seen just before disaster strikes. Mermaids beckon men to watery graves, demons ride waves, dragons lurk where maps say unknown. Such tales may be fancy, yet they hold truth. The sea is vast, strange, and beyond human mastery. To give it a face makes fear bearable. Faith counters fear. Before voyages, captains donate wax to churches. Sailors kneel before altars. Wives hang votive models of ships. Saint Nicholas, protector of sailors, is prayed to most, his image carved into prows or kept in lockets. The Virgin Mary, too, is beloved, star of the sea, her calm gaze a comfort amid waves. When storms rage, voices rise together, prayers shouted into wind, hymns sung through chattering teeth, promises made, candles, coins, pilgrimages, if only deliverance is given. Ports remember storms. Taverns have walls blackened with names of ships lost. Harbors have bells rung for drowned. Children grow old knowing the sea takes as well as gives. Yet life does not retreat. Boats are built again, sails mended, prayers renewed. Storms are part of bargain. You cannot take fish, trade, or passage without risking wrath. This truth is accepted, though never easily. There is a strange, terrible beauty in storms, too. Sailors speak of skies split white with lightning, seas glowing green with strange fire, rain that lashes like whips, waves shining silver beneath moon. Some, surviving, remember awe as much as terror. The sea, in fury, shows its power, and those who live to see calm again walk away humbled. To live medieval life by sea is to walk always between hope and hazard. Every launch is brave, every return a miracle. Storms and peril are not accidents, but the sea's own voice, reminding all that its gifts are hard-earned. And yet men and women keep going, keep fishing, keep trading, keep voyaging, because beyond fear lies survival, and beyond survival, wonder. A ship is only as brave as the hands that steer it, and those hands are only as wise as the way they find. The medieval sailor lives in a world without printed charts for every bay, without glass-covered maps glowing with safe routes. To cross the sea means to trust memory, keen sight, and a handful of simple tools, and, as always, to trust heaven. Yet out of these few things men built a working science of navigation, a craft both ancient and new, carried in minds and passed from master to apprentice. The old ways of coastal pilots. Long before compasses and charts became common, sailors clung to the coastline like a lifeline. They learned every headland, every bay, every reef that might tear a hull. Pilots, seasoned men whose lives were tied to one stretch of sea, knew where sandbars shifted, where rocks lurked just beneath tide, where the currents would carry or fight a ship. They spoke in half-poetic names: Dragon's Tooth Rock, Widow's Shoal, St. Anne's Spit. Their craft was memory, their charts were in their heads. A pilot stood near the tiller, pointing out landmarks. A tower seen faint across the haze, a clump of trees shaped like spear or crown, a pale streak of chalk cliff, a ruined abbey roof. By these the ship hugged shore, moving from one mark to the next like stepping stones. Depth was tested with a sounding line, a long rope weighted with lead, often coated with tallow. Dropped into water, it told not only depth but what lay beneath: sand stuck to the tallow, or broken shell, or sticky clay. Each bottom meant something: safe anchorage, treacherous shoal, or hidden channel. This pilotage kept traders safe but slow. To leave sight of land was terrifying, for once the coast was gone, a ship could feel adrift in featureless blue. Many medieval mariners refused to sail beyond where a landmark might be glimpsed on clear day. Yet trade, pilgrimage, and war pushed them farther, and with distance came new tools. Reading the sky. From ancient times, sailors have watched the sun and stars, but in the Middle Ages, this knowledge became sharper. The sun gave rough direction: east at dawn, west at dusk. At noon, shadow of mast or small sundial told die and helped gauge latitude loosely. But at night the sky was map. Northern sailors watched Polaris, the steadfast North Star. It hovered close to true north. Its height above horizon changed with latitude, so by judging its angle a sailor guessed how far north or south he was. Mediterranean pilots knew constellations: Ursa Major, the Great Bear, pointing north; Orion's Belt hinting east-west; the Pleiades as seasonal markers. Star reading was part skill, part art. Clouds or fog could hide them for days. Storms could scatter a fleet and leave each ship alone. Yet on clear nights the deck fell quiet except for creak of ropes as men looked upward. Some swore stars sang softly, guiding true hearts. Some believed saints set the stars in lines for sailors to follow. The coming of the compass. Sometime in the 12th century, a quiet revolution slid into Europe from the east, the magnetic compass. First, a needle floated on cork or straw, later mounted upon cards marked with winds. To a man long bound to coastline, the small needle was miracle. It pointed north no matter cloud or fog. Italian and Provençal merchants began to use it. Then northern sailors took it on. By the 18th century, most long traders carried one. It was not perfect. Ship's iron could sway it, storms confuse it, but it gave direction when sky and coast vanished. At first, many mistrusted it. Some called it witchcraft, fearing a thing that worked in dark and fog when God seemed to hide the stars. Priests sometimes blessed compasses to calm crews, but its usefulness overcame fear. With compass in hand, a ship dared farther, across the Bay of Biscay without hugging shore, across the North Sea even when fog smothered coast, across the Mediterranean on direct lines rather than long detours. Tools of the trade. Other instruments joined the mariner's chest. The astrolabe, borrowed from Arabic science, allowed sailors to measure the sun's or star's height more precisely, thus estimate latitude. Heavy brass, full of engraved circles, it was tricky on rolling deck, but invaluable in calm. The cross staff, or Jacob's staff, a long rod with sliding crosspieces, grew popular later. Hold one end to eye, slide crosspiece until it marks both horizon and sun or star, then read latitude from scale. Simple but powerful. Charts too changed arte horticultural, multiple Janmufin forests and Melsandri clever. Italian mapmakers in Genoa and Venice made them artful vellum sheets showing bays, shoals, ports decorated with flags and city towers. A portolan might guide a merchant from Barcelona to Alexandria, marking trusted harbors and dangerous reefs. These charts were costly treasures, copied by hand, guarded jealously by captains and guilds, oral lore and secret knowledge. Yet, even with tools, oral knowledge ruled. Pilots taught apprentices with song-like chants listing ports in order, with whispered tales of hidden shoals or sudden currents. Some families held pilot rights for generations, their memory as valued as any map. Guilds kept secrets close. A rival ship might be wrecked if given false bearings. Certain winds were named and feared. The Levante in the Mediterranean, the Bora in Adriatic, the black east wind of the North Sea. Such lore, half science, half story, was the true heart of navigation. Superstitions mixed with skill. Some would not sail if swallows nested in rigging, or if a black pig crossed the gangplank. Launching was delayed for ill omens, resumed when a priest blessed deck, or a favorable wind blew 3 times in a row. Navigators spat over stern for luck, tied strange knots in ropes to trap good breezes, or slept with compass beneath pillow for steady needle. The feeling of the open sea. Imagine a medieval captain leaving safe harbor for open water. The coast falls behind, dwindling to a thin, dark line. Compass points steady, but nothing else is sure. Waves rise, endless and identical. Clouds may cover stars for days. The only sense of motion is in swell and wind. Every creak of mast, every tug on rope matters. The helmsman's eyes flick to compass, to sliver of sun, to faint shape of far cloud banks. Pilots murmur of currents, of smell of land on breeze, of birds' flight as hints of direction. It is a world of watchfulness and quiet courage. Night is deeper than most landfolk imagine. Lanterns swing, giving little light. Beyond is black sea and black sky, alive with stars. Men on watch walk slow, boots thudding softly, breath visible in cold. They check compass by touch, trace constellations by finger, mutter prayers to Mary and Nicholas. Fear presses in, fear of losing way, of wandering until food and water fail. Yet there is wonder, too. The Milky Way blazing, waves shining with green fire of plankton, dolphins glowing in phosphorescence, silence vast as heavens. Legacy of medieval navigation. By the later Middle Ages, the mixture of memory, sky, and simple tools created a seafaring network strong enough to bind continents. Wool moved swiftly from English ports to Bruges. Venetian galleys struck straight lines to Alexandria. Portuguese ships began feeling their way farther south along Africa's coast. Each voyage pushed knowledge a little wider, each pilot adding to mental maps, each compass needle turning fear into direction. It was not yet the age of great global exploration, but the groundwork was laid. Mariners learned to trust unseen forces, magnetism, stars, current. They passed that trust to sons and apprentices. When the later caravels and carracks dared beyond familiar seas, they sailed on skills honed by countless unknown medieval pilots who quietly, patiently taught themselves to find the way. So in every dark shipyard or crowded port, alongside ropes and sails, you would find the tools of navigation, a battered compass, a tallow-smeared sounding line, a weathered porcelain chart folded like treasure. And in every sailor's heart you would find the true compass, courage mixed with fear, guided by faith and the eternal stars. Not every voyage across the medieval sea is for trade or fish or war. Some journeys are taken for the sake of the soul. To be a pilgrim is to leave home seeking grace, healing, or forgiveness, and for many such journeys the road is water. Ships become vessels not only of cargo but of prayer, carrying men and women to shrines far away. Compostela, Rome, Canterbury, the Holy Land itself. The sea becomes a ribbon of devotion, binding distant altars to humble hearts. The decision to sail as a pilgrim begins quietly. A man may vow it on sickbed, promising St. James a journey if life is spared. A woman may swear to Our Lady to visit her shrine in gratitude for a child. Knights may seek absolution for bloodshed, merchants for dishonest gain, widows for grief too heavy to carry. A parish priest may speak of indulgences, of healing, of the saving power of relics. Slowly a plan forms to leave familiar fields, to walk to port, to trust one's body and soul to the sea. Preparations are humble but deliberate. Pilgrims sew scallop shells upon cloaks or hats, symbols of their vow. They carry staffs tipped with iron, small purses of coin, letters from priests attesting to their purpose. Food is packed if coin is scarce, bread baked hard, dried beans, salted meat. Those with wealth hire passage on merchant ships. The poor gather in groups, bargaining for space on any vessel willing to take them. Children may go with parents, old men hobble with sticks, nobles ride alongside peasants. Sea makes little difference of rank. Arriving at the port, pilgrims mingle with traders and sailors, wide-eyed at bustle. They listen for news. Which ships are bound for France, for Spain, for Italy? Who has safe reputation? Which captains fear God? Which cheat or drink too deep? Money changes hands. Names are written in ship's tally. And soon pilgrim packs join barrels of wine and sacks of grain. Before boarding, most kneel in harbor chapels, lighting candles, whispering prayers to Nicholas or Mary. Some confess sins before departure, hoping to face sea clean of soul. Life aboard as a pilgrim is both similar and different to that of sailors. Pilgrims work if asked, hauling ropes, bailing water, but most simply endure the sea's hardships. They sleep where space allows, under deck beams, upon coils of rope, among cargo. Food is meager, ship's biscuit, broth if there is meat to spare, water or ale that quickly turns sour. Seasickness strikes many, leaving them pale and miserable. Yet prayers rise often, rosaries click, hymns murmur in night, candles burn in tiny lanterns before images of saints. The voyage itself can be long. A trip to Santiago might take weeks, hugging coasts, stopping in small ports to resupply. To Rome or the Holy Land, months may pass, with changes of ship in bustling Mediterranean harbors, Genoa, Venice, Marseille. Pilgrims see sights that never dreamed, strange languages, bright markets, mosques and minarets, desert shores. Each port brings wonder but also danger. Thieves prey on strangers, sickness spreads in crowded quarters, storms delay progress for weeks. Yet the pilgrim presses on, sustained by vow and hope. There are moments of community aboard. Nobles and peasants pray side by side. Sickness erases rank. Fear binds strangers. When storms rage, all cry to heaven together. When calm returns, all share bread in relief. Pilgrims sing hymns on feast days, celebrate Mass if priest is aboard, confess sins to one another when death feels near. Friendships form across class and country, tied not by coin but by shared passage through peril. Many ships carry relics and chapels. A small altar may be set against mast, a carved cross lashed to rail. Captains sometimes employ a chaplain who blesses meals, hears confessions, leads hymns. Votive offerings hang from beams, wax ships, painted saints, medals of silver. Some pilgrims carve names into deck planks, leaving mark of their vow. Others drop coins into sea as they near shrine, thanking saints for safe crossing. Arrival at Holy Port is emotional. To see towers of Compostela, domes of Rome, or the holy harbor of Jaffa after long peril is to feel tears rise unbidden. Pilgrims kneel upon deck, some kissing wood, some bowing heads. Bells ring from shore, priests wave blessings, vendors call, crowds gather. Feet that have walked dusty roads now step onto stones of promised city. Prayers long held silent break into sobs and song. At shrine, pilgrims fulfill vows, lighting candles, leaving gifts of wax or silver, sometimes offering hair or boots, or the very clothes they traveled in. They kneel before relics, bones of apostles, shreds of saints' garments, drops of holy blood. Believing grace flows through touch or sight. Priests bless them, absolution given, wounds of spirit healed, if not always of body. Some remain for days, others only hours before turning for home. But all carry new stories, new faith, new memories etched deep by sea's danger and shrine's peace. The journey home is no less perilous, but lighter of heart. Pilgrims sing more, laugh easier, though storms still strike and pirates still haunt. Some never return, the sea takes even the faithful, yet most come back changed, faces weathered by salt, eyes lit by vision of distant holy places, tongues carrying tales to quiet villages. Children listen wide-eyed, neighbors marvel, and the sea gains another layer of wonder and dread in village lore. To be a medieval pilgrim by sea is to weave together humility and courage. It means trusting fragile timber against waves, trusting strangers, trusting saints. It means stepping into a world wide and wild, far beyond plough and hearth. Each pilgrim's voyage deepens the unseen network of faith, tying Europe together. Roads of prayer running not only overland, but across salt and storm. And each small figure boarding ship, shell upon hat and staff in hand, carries with them the hope that the sea, however perilous, will bear them safely to grace. Not every ship upon the medieval sea carries trade or pilgrims. Some are built for war. When kings call, when lords feud, when pirates must be hunted or coasts defended, ships gather into fleets, a naval muster. These moments fill harbors with noise and awe, soldiers boarding, archers stringing bows, blacksmiths hammering weapons, sailors fitting ships not for cargo but for combat. It is a sight both thrilling and grim, for the sea that feeds and carries can also become battlefield. The call to muster comes in many ways. A royal herald rides to ports, proclaiming the king's need for ships. Guild masters meet, deciding which merchants will send vessels, which captains will serve. Lords send messages to vassals, demanding ships in lieu of knights. Even fishermen may be pressed, their small boats taken to scout or ferry troops. Bells ring from churches, town criers shout through markets, rumors swell faster than tide. Pirates sighted, enemy fleet approaching, crusade declared. Shipyards surge with activity, cogs are refitted for war, decks cleared of cargo to make space for soldiers, sides reinforced, platforms built for archers. New galleys may be built, long, lean, driven by oars as well as sail, swift and deadly. Blacksmiths forge arrowheads, swords, axes, hooks for boarding. Coopers craft barrels for water and salted meat. Fletchers work day and night. Ropes are tarred, sails patched and strengthened. Harbor air grows harsh with smoke and hammering, the usual trade drowned by clamor of preparation. Soldiers arrive from inland, knights in mail, their horses left behind, climb awkwardly aboard decks more used to wool than war. Archers come in companies, bows strung, quivers packed with sheaves of arrows. Men-at-arms carry poleaxes, bills, and crossbows. Their faces show excitement and unease. Many have never been to sea. They pace docks uncertainly, gazing at waves with more fear than they show in any land battle. Sailors smirk quietly. They know the sea shows no favor to bravery untested. Captains gather crews, choosing the best hands for dangerous service. Steersmen who know tricky coasts, climbers swift in rigging, gunners where cannon or great crossbows are mounted. Some crews are pressed unwillingly, criminals offered pardon for service, drifters caught in taverns, poor men promised coin. Yet many go willingly for pay, or patriotism, or the lure of plunder, for defeated ships are rich prizes. Before departure there are blessings and pageantry. Priests walk the decks, sprinkling holy water, raising relics high. Banners snap in wind, royal lions, town crests, saints' emblems. Drums beat, trumpets call, and harbors swell with people watching. Wives weep, children cling, merchants calculate risks. It is spectacle and dread, color and song masking the knowledge that many may not return. Once at sea, a war fleet moves like a strange floating town. Flagships lead, signaling with banners or lanterns. Galleys skim ahead as scouts, their oars flashing. Cogs follow heavy with troops. Order matters. Supply ships protected in center, swift vessels at edges. Sailors shout, trumpets sound, drums beat to keep rowers pace. Life aboard grows even tighter, soldiers crammed where cargo once lay, sleeping shoulder to shoulder, weapons near hands. Food is hardtack and salt meat, water carefully rationed. Seasickness plagues land-borne troops, their groans mingling with creak of rigging. Naval combat is fierce and brutal. Ships close in rather than fight at distance. Archers loose volleys first, their arrows darkening sky, hammering down upon decks. Crossbows fire heavy bolts that pierce planks or armor. Stones hurl from catapults, flaming pitch pots shatter in smoke and fire. Then comes grappling hooks thrown, ropes hauled, ships lashed side by side. Soldiers surge across, swords flashing, axes hacking rigging and masts, shields clashing. The sea becomes chaos, screaming, smoke, splintering wood, and the crash of hulls. Fire is most dreaded. A single spark upon dry rope or sail can doom a ship. Pitch pots explode, decks blaze, men leap into sea rather than burn. Water buckets are passed frantically, but flames leap with wind. Many fleets keep fire ships, vessels set ablaze and sent drifting toward enemy lines, a terror that scatters even the bravest crews. Victory is savage. Captured ships are stripped of cargo and weapons. Survivors taken for ransom or sold as slaves if fortune is cruel. Losers sink or burn, their dead claimed by waves. Ports celebrate when fleets return, but harbors also receive news of loss. Widows maid, sons never home. Bells ring for both triumph and mourning. Not all naval musters are war. Some chase pirates who prey upon merchants with swift galleys and merciless speed. Towns band together to fund patrol ships. Kings send fleets to clear coasts. These voyages are long, dull hunts broken by sudden skirmish, swift and bloody. Pirate ships once caught are burned in harbors as warning. Their crews hung from piers, grim spectacle meant to keep trade safe. Yet even in war, fellowship forms. Sailors teach soldiers sea ways, soldiers share tales of land battles. Captains forge respect for skill beyond their own. Shared fear of storm and enemy binds them. Songs rise after victories, prayers after survival. The muster, grim as it is, becomes another thread, tying sea to land, craft to courage. When fleets return, banners tattered, hulls patched with strange timber from foreign ports, they bring more than spoils, they bring stories of distant lands, strange foes, wild storms survived. Children gather wide-eyed, markets buzz with tales. Some ships limp home empty but alive, some never return, memory and rumor sailing back. Harbors hold both cheer and sorrow when musters end. The naval muster reminds all that the sea is not only trade route or pilgrim's path, but battlefield. It shows how kingdoms project power, how ports defend themselves, how sailors and soldiers alike stake lives upon waves. Yet it also shows resilience. Men and women turning wood and rope into weapons when needed, trusting to skill, courage, and faith against chaos. The sea remains untamed, but still they answer when called, ready to risk all for king, town, or kin. The sea is too vast, too unpredictable, too full of death and wonder to face with skill alone. Every sailor knows this, every merchant who loads his cargo, every fisherman who rows before dawn, every pilgrim who steps aboard with trembling heart. They all know that ropes and planks and clever hands will only take them so far. Beyond that point lies the realm of luck, fate, and the divine. The medieval mariner lives surrounded by faith, prayers, charms, blessings, and sacred stories that help him endure the endless, restless waters. From the first day a boy sets foot upon a pier, he learns the signs and omens of the sea. Never whistle lest you summon storms. Never sail on certain unlucky feast days. Watch the sky at sunset. Red for safe winds, green for danger, black for death. Birds flying low foretell squalls, dolphins playing promise fair weather. A single crow alone at sea is a warning. A gull circling high brings hope. These are not idle tales, but survival rules, passed from mouth to mouth, shaping behavior as surely as charts and compasses. Charms are everywhere. Tiny crosses carved into masts, shells sewn into sails, small lead tokens of St. Nicholas hung around necks. Some sailors carry a piece of rope tied by a priest, others a scrap of cloth touched to relics. Women send men to sea with sprigs of herbs hidden in boots or sewn into shirts, rosemary for remembrance, rue for protection. Each charm is a small anchor of courage against fear. Before every voyage, rituals unfold. Captains walk deck in silence, touching mast, whispering prayers. Sailors gather at harbor chapels, lighting candles, kneeling before altars bright with ships carved in wax. Saint Nicholas, patron of sailors and merchants, is most beloved, his image painted on prows, his miracles told at night around lanterns. He saved ships from sinking, calmed storms, rescued men swept overboard, so the stories say, and belief runs deep. The Virgin Mary is Stella Maris, star of the sea, her blue-clad figure carried in icons aboard. Some pray to local saints, Breton seafarers to Anne of Brittany, Englishmen to St. Brendan or St. Cuthbert. Mass is celebrated upon quays before departure, if possible. Priests bless ships with holy water, swing censers heavy with incense, until sweet smoke mingles with salt air. They recite psalms that speak of God mastering the seas. Crews bow heads, vinyl riffist among them briefly solemn. Mothers and wives stand weeping, holding rosaries, children cling to skirts. The farewell is both hope and surrender, trusting loved ones to waves and to heaven's mercy. On board, faith travels too. Some ships carry chaplains who say Mass on calm days, hear confessions when storms frighten men to honesty. Others make do with prayer led by captain or pious sailor. Hymns rise at dawn or dusk, simple Latin chants, psalms in the vernacular, sometimes only murmured Ave Marias as men climb rigging. Candles burn before small images nailed to mast. In darkest hours of tempest, prayers become cries. Nicholas, save us! Mary, star of the sea, guide us! The voices mingle with wind and wave until all sounds one plea. There are sailors' saints known across Europe. Nicholas, of course, but also Erasmus, called Elmo, whose blue flame sometimes danced upon masts during storms. Saint Elmo's fire, seen as sign of his protection. Brendan the navigator, who voyaged far in Irish tales. Clement, who drowned and became patron of anchors. Ulrich, protector against shipwreck. Each port has shrines where mariners leave offerings, miniature ships carved of wood, silver anchors, coins, candles, scraps of sail. Some promise to walk barefoot to a church if spared. Some vow to pay for new altar candles. The sea teaches bargaining with heaven. Superstition and devotion blend seamlessly. Sailors avoid cutting hair or nails at sea, believing it angers spirits. They greet dolphins but spit at sharks. They fear women aboard as bad luck, yet carve women's figures on prows to guide ships. They speak kindly to wind, curse storms, yet apologize after. Even foul-mouthed crews fall silent at certain signs. A sudden calm, a bird alighting on mast, strange lights dancing upon water. The sea feels alive, listening. When death comes, and it comes often, faith gives shape to grief. Bodies are sewn into sailcloth with a stone at feet, prayers said, sometimes coins placed in mouth or hand. Bells toll if one is aboard, otherwise only voices pray as body slides into deep. The sea claims its own, but souls sailors hope go safely to God. Back in port, families light candles, pay for masses, tell stories to keep memory alive. Wooden votives shaped like ships line chapel walls, each a silent thank you or farewell. Homecomings, too, are marked with thanksgiving. Safe sailors march to shrines, barefoot or in procession, singing hymns. Offerings are hung, painted tablets showing ship in storm, candles taller than man, coins left by mast of local chapel. Families feast, neighbors join, prayers of gratitude rise loud. Survival at sea is never taken for granted. Each return is miracle acknowledged. This deep maritime faith shapes culture ashore. Villages hold blessings of the fleet each spring. Priests sprinkle nets and boats with holy water. Festivals honor saints who protect against storm. Children grow up learning prayers for fathers and brothers at sea. Even merchants pray over goods before ships sail, for profit is nothing if ship is lost. The whole coastline lives in rhythm of hope, prayer, and thanks. And yet, alongside holy trust, there is a private, quiet spirituality born of horizon. Sailors speak of nights alone on watch, stars bright beyond counting, waves whispering like prayer. They feel small and yet strangely near to God. Storms teach humility, Calm seas teach gratitude. Sunrise over endless water fills heart with awe. Many return not only with coin, but with deeper faith, having felt both death's nearness and heaven's vastness. For the medieval mariner, faith is no mere custom. It is survival's companion and fear's answer. It blesses rope and sail, steadies hand and heart, and carries hope across the dark. The sea may be wild and cruel, but it is also God's creation, and in trusting saints and heaven, sailors find courage to keep venturing into its mystery. Stand at the edge of a medieval harbor in the quiet after the day's bustle, and you will feel how the sea shapes life. The cries of gulls fade with the dusk, sails hang limp against masts, and the scent of tar and salt lingers like an old song. Far beyond the bay, the horizon glows faintly where sky meets water. There, unseen in the falling night, ships travel still, fishing boats creeping homeward, merchant cogs pressing toward distant ports, pilgrim vessels praying their way to holy shores. The sea never sleeps. For those who lived in this world, the ocean was not a backdrop, but a teacher. It demanded skill from shipwright and sailor alike. It demanded courage from every soul who dared step aboard. It linked quiet villages to faraway cities, bound farmers' grain to foreign tables, carried wool and wine, salt and timber, prayer and song. It brought saints' relics and spices, merchants' fortunes and kings' armies. It united lands that might otherwise have remained strangers. Yet the sea also humbled. Storms swallowed ships without warning. Pirates struck from sudden mist. Disease stalked crowded decks. Families stood on cliffs and beaches, scanning gray waves for sails that never returned. Every gift the sea gave was edged with risk. This knowledge shaped a people who were neither naive nor despairing. Rather, they were patient, pragmatic, deeply reverent, and fiercely resilient. Faith wrapped itself around every voyage. Sailors whispered prayers before dawn, kissed amulets before climbing rigging, sang hymns as lightning split the night. Women lit candles on shore, children learned saints' names before letters. Each safe return felt like grace. Each loss demanded ritual and remembrance. In chapels by the sea, painted plaques showed ships tossed by waves, saved by holy hands. Bells tolled for the drowned and for those still traveling. Trade turned water into roads of wealth. Wool sailed from English shires to Flemish looms, wine from Gascony to London, timber from Baltic forests to distant cathedrals. Coins clinked, markets thrived, cities rose rich on maritime power. Pilgrims followed the same routes, turning commercial paths into roads of devotion. Naval fleets transformed harbors into staging grounds for kings' ambitions and towns' defenses. The medieval sea was no single thing. It was many seas at once: marketplace, highway, battlefield, and chapel. To stand now in imagination among those who lived then is to hear their world. The rasp of saw in shipyard, the creak of rope, the crash of wave against hull, the call of merchants and minstrels, the chant of prayers, the sigh of tired men on deck. It is to smell pitch and salt, fish and spice, smoke and sweat. It is to feel wind that be friend or foe, and to know how small one life feels beside endless water. And yet there is also wonder. The sea gave a taste of the infinite to even the humblest soul. A fisherman might never leave sight of his bay, yet he knew the same tides touched distant shores. A pilgrim might stand awestruck beneath strange constellations on the way to Compostela or Rome. A merchant might hold silk or pepper in his hands, tangible proof that the world was wider than his father's farm. Each voyage, even a day's sail to the next port, reminded people that beyond their fields and churches lay something vast and shared. We too can learn from this. To live close to the sea in the Middle Ages was to live with respect for forces larger than oneself, to plan carefully, work hard, pray humbly, and yet still dare to venture forth. It was to accept that safety and certainty were illusions, but that risk could bring connection, discovery, and meaning. The sea was a mirror of life itself, generous, dangerous, beautiful, and untamable. As the last lanterns in the harbor flicker and the tide begins to rise, imagine the sound of halyards tapping masts, the faint thud of waves against quay stones, and the murmur of sailors bedding down for another early tide. Beyond the dark, ships move like stars upon black water, guided by faith, courage, and the steady knowledge that tomorrow's wind may carry them anywhere. The medieval sea endures, not in wood and sail, but in the human longing to journey, to trade, to pray, and to trust the unknown. Follow the tide beyond the fishing beach, and you will meet a different breed of seafarer, the coastal sailor. These are men and sometimes women who venture farther than the small dayboats of a village, steering stout cogs, hulks, or knarrs from port to port. They carry grain, timber, wool, saltfish, wine, and countless other goods along Europe's jagged shores. Their life is half merchant, half mariner, and wholly shaped by sea's moods. Morning for a coastal crew begins in harbor. Lanterns sway on moored ships as deckhands stir awake, stretching in cramped bunks or on coils of rope. Cook stirs pot of thin porridge or ship's biscuit softened with ale. Captain checks tide tables and sky. Red dawn means caution. Clear pale east encourages departure. Dockside clatter begins. Stevedores loading barrels, merchants shouting accounts, carts groaning with cargo. The ship itself is living creature. Most coastal traders are cogs, broad, single-masted vessels with square sail, high sides for safety and storage. Others are long, lean canals of Norse design or hulks with multiple decks. Tarred hulls smell sharp, rigging creaks as crew checks knots. Rudder, heavy tiller, or side oar tested before sailing. Above masthead flutters guild flag or town colors, marking origin and claim to safe passage. Loading is choreographed chaos. Barrels of salted herring, sacks of grain, bolts of cloth, kegs of wine, all lowered by pulley or manhandled across gangplank. Care matters. Poorly stowed cargo can shift and sink ship. Ballast stones adjusted for balance. Livestock sometimes penned on deck. Pigs, chickens, even cow for milk on long run. Departure feels momentous, even for routine trip. Lines cast off. Long poles push hull from quay until sail to fill. Crew hauls ropes. Heavy canvas booms outward. Wind snaps it full with deep crack. Harbor shrinks. Gulls cry farewell. Town bells fade behind as only sea and sky remain. Days at sea follow wind's whim. With fair breeze, ship slides smooth, sail bellied like great wing. Helmsman holds tiller steady, eyes on sun and coastal landmarks, church towers, cliffs, islands, or beacons. Navigation is art of memory and sight, more than compass, though some captains carry simple lodestone needle in box. Soundings with lead and line-check depth charts are rare and precious. Crew work never stops. Sails trimmed with every wind change, ropes coiled, decks scrubbed to keep salt from eating planks. Watches keep lookout for shoals or pirates. At night, lanterns shielded but lit for safety. Helmsman steers by stars and sound of surf. Meals simple, hard bread, dried fish, ale or thin wine. Better captains provide onion, garlic, or dried fruit for health. Stories fill long hours. Sailors sing low shanties to match rope-hauling rhythm, tell tales of sea monsters, ghost ships, or saintly rescues. Superstition strong, whistling may call storm. Women aboard bring luck or doom depending on tale. Cats prize for chasing rats and warding ill winds. Each man wears charm, carved bone, small cross, bit of blessed wax. The sea itself dictates mood. Calm days warm and lazy, crew men sail or naps. Sudden squall to turn sky black, whip waves high and tear canvas in heartbeat. Then all scramble, reef sail, lash barrels pray. Some ships founder close to shore when storms strike fast. Many ports have memorial crosses for lost crews. Pirates and privateers haunt coasts. Watchmen scan horizon for unfamiliar sails. Merchant ships sometimes sail in pairs for safety or pay lord for escort. Some captains carry small cannon or bows. Most rely on speed and wind. If chase comes, crew throws cargo to lighten and flee. Harbors each have flavor. In northern towns, cold fog and smell of tar. In southern ports, sun-baked quays lined with wine jars and olive oil. Sailors know them all, cheap Inns, honest chandlers, sly thieves, generous saints. Returning means mending rigging, selling cargo, collecting pay, and perhaps riotous night of ale. Yet next tide they go again, sea call stronger than land's comfort. Religion walks beside danger. Crews pray before departure, sometimes hear mass on quay. Ship may bear painted saint on stern or relic in tiny shrine. In storm, voices cry to Mary, Nicholas, or local patrons. Surviving wrecks often bring gifts to chapels. Many ports display ex votos, little painted boards of sinking ships, saved by divine hand. Seasons shape schedule. Spring welcomes wine ships from south, timber from north. Summer busy with fairs and long voyages. Autumn, last frantic runs before storms. Winter feared but sometimes braved by hardy captains chasing profit. Ice locks some harbors, others bustle year-round with daring crews. Life aboard is rough but offers freedom. A farm boy may rise to helmsman, even captain if clever. Foreign tongues, strange foods, new friends appear each port. Tales of whales, far islands, or battles feed dreams. Yet pay is uncertain, storms cruel, and families wait long. Wives and mothers keep lamps in window till sail returns. Evening at sea can be magical. Sun sets crimson behind stern, sail glows amber, sea turns to silver gloss. Crew eats quietly, then songs or quiet prayer. Stars appear huge and close, dolphins sometimes follow, glowing in phosphorescent wake. Despite hardship, such nights keep sailors returning, hearts caught by horizon's pull. So picture these sailors of the coast, tar-stained, wind-burned, wary yet eager, their small ships threading between fishing villages and grand ports. They carried more than goods, they carried stories, news, and faint dream of distant worlds, binding medieval shores together, one tide at a time. Day slips gently toward night as the harbor exhales its last labor. Masts stand like a dark forest against a rose and gold sky. Ropes creak and slap as tide turns. Gulls wheel lazily now, sated from a day of scavenging. Lanterns wink alive one by one along piers and in windows. If you stand here, on damp stone quay with salt in your nose, you can feel the entire life of the coast folding itself to rest. Ships return in slow parade. Fishing boats glide first, sails slack, hulls heavy with day's catch. Men call greetings to wives and children waiting at waterline. Baskets and barrels are passed to show. Coastal traders follow, dropping sails with thud and rustle, then poling carefully into slips. Ropes tossed, cleats tied, captains shouting last commands as decks empty of crew and cargo. The air is thick with scent, tar and wet wood, crushed shell, fish fresh and smoked, pitch bubbling in cauldrons where shipwrights patch seams even now. From nearby taverns drifts yeast and frying oil. Smoke from curing sheds curls low. Somewhere a blacksmith hammers last nails for tomorrow's voyage. Harbor folk move like practiced tide. Porters haul barrels of wine or herring to warehouses. Scribes tally goods by torchlight, quills scratching on rough parchment. Children dart among crates, chasing stray cats or begging copper from sailors. Merchants count and haggle in half-light, voices low but urgent. A ship newly in from distant coast draws a curious crowd, eager for foreign news and strange wares. Along the quays, inns and alehouses open shutters to sea breeze. Sailors tramp in for drink and stew. Laughter and song spill out with lamplight. Some drink to forget storm and danger, some to celebrate safe return, some simply to fill empty belly. Music rises, fiddle, pipe, maybe drum, dice rattle on tables, promises of next voyage traded with hearty slaps on back. Farther down, quieter corners hold shipyards. Great ribs of new vessels loom against fading sky, carpenters still tapping and sawing in last light. Caulkers smear tar, boys fetch tools, masters check timbers for flaws. Sparks fly where smith shapes iron nails and fittings. These yards smell of oak, pine, hot pitch scent of tomorrow's ships. Docks themselves are a world of sound. Chains clank, gulls cry, waves slap pilings. Sailcloth flaps, oars knock gently in rowlocks as small ferries still ply water. Bells from anchored ships mark hour. A deep horn may signal tide's turn. Voices call across water, languages mingling local tongue, traders from far ports, occasional Latin of clerks or priests. Faith marks this place too. At pier's end stands small shrine, a saint's figure weathered by salt, candles flickering in glass jars. Returning crews stop briefly to cross themselves, leave coin, or whisper thanks for safe passage. Families pray there for loved ones still at sea. On great feast days, whole harbor fills with banners and hymns, ships decked with greenery and pennants as priests bless fleet. But dusk, is it only reverence? Dockside markets thrive till late. Smoked fish, fresh shellfish, ropes, lanterns, sailors' trinkets, peddlers hawk hot pies and mulled ale to hungry hands. Women mend nets by lantern, gossiping softly. Children chase dogs underfoot. It is a living theater of small survival, where coin changes hands until night deepens. Danger still whispers. Watch patrols appear with spears and lanterns to keep order. Thieves and smugglers, no shadows well. A drunken brawl to flare fast outside tavern. Guards drag men to cells, or toss them in harbor's cold cure. Fires feared here more than anywhere. Tar, rope, and timber ignite easily. Buckets and pumps stand ready. Bells ring if flame spotted. For sailors whose ship departs with dawn tide, night is half rest, half readiness. They eat heartily, drink but not too deep, patch clothes, write letters home if literate. Some seek church blessing before sleeping on board. Others gamble wages away in smoky inn corners. A few wander quay in quiet thought, staring at dark horizon where tomorrow waits. Moonrise turns water silver. Ships rock gently, lanterns swaying like fireflies. The harbor grows hushed except for lap of waves and low voices. Far warehouses close, dogs bark once then settle. Only late drinkers watch patrols and those with night cargo remain. The world feels both safe and wild, human effort glowing small against vast sea beyond. Season changes, harbor mood. Summer evenings buzz with festival music, bonfires on beach, fairs spilling to quayside. Autumn smells of herring and smoke, frantic trade before gales. Winter harbors lie quieter, masts rimed with frost, but taverns warm and full of tales. Spring brings mending and launching of ships, hopeful laughter after storms. For those inland, the sea seems distant, but here at harbor's edge, life is entirely tied to tide. Every meal, every trade route, every prayer depends on these boats and brave souls. The harbor is town's lung, breathing goods in and out, breathing news and fortune, breathing adventure. So when you dream of the medieval coast, linger here at harbor dusk, lanterns trembling on water, sailors' songs fading, families embracing, ships nodding toward night. It is a place between land and deep, safety and risk, where centuries of seafaring hope have quietly anchored. The first craft to meet the sea are small, before galleys, before cogs, before the tall ships of merchants and kings. There are fishing boats, humble vessels shaped more by need than by pride. They are as varied as the coasts that bear them. On rocky shores, narrow boats slip easily between jagged teeth of stone. In broad estuary, flat-bottomed crafts skim shallow waters where nets are drawn. In sheltered bays, round coracles float like half-shells, light enough to carry on a man's back. At dawn, when the sky is still pale and gulls wheel hungry, these boats slide into water. Fishermen know the tides, the winds, the temper of each current. They know where herring school in glittering clouds, where cod lie deep, where eels slither in dark mud. They know the cries of seabirds, how the birds circle when shoals rise, how the sea's surface shivers when fish turn below. Their wisdom is it written in books, but carried in memory, in practice, in words muttered from father to son, from grandfather to child. The boats themselves smell of tar and fish, of damp nets and salt. Their hulls are patched and repatched, nails hammered in where planks split, seams caulked with moss and pitch. Oars are worn smooth by countless hands, blades feathered into water with quiet rhythm. Nets hang heavy, ropes coiled at the prow, small wooden floats tied along the mesh. A lantern may swing from the bow, its light trembling across ripples in the dark. Fishermen wear cloaks stiff with spray, caps pulled low, knives at their belts. To watch them at work is to see ritual and rhythm. Nets are cast wide, floating upon sea like spider webs. Hands grip ropes, voices call out, muscles strain. Slowly, carefully, nets are drawn, dripping, writhing with silver life. Fish spill onto deck, scales flashing in early sun, flopping and gasping. Children, when allowed aboard, leap to help, laughing as they dodge the thrash. Some boats carry lines with dozens of hooks. Fishermen bait them swiftly, dropping them into depths, waiting for the tug that signals a catch. Catch enough, and joy fills the boat. Men laugh, slapping shoulders, shouting thanks to saints. A small wooden cross may be kissed, a prayer whispered to Mary or Nicholas, protector of sailors. Catch too little, and silence reigns, broken only by gulls crying overhead. The sea gives as it wills. Some days it is generous, some days cruel. Yet the boats always go out again, for hunger waits on land, and faith drives men back into waves. Fishing is it only for trade, but for survival. In Lent, when meat is forbidden, fish fills tables. In villages, dried herring hang in rows, cod is salted in barrels, eels are stewed, mussels boiled. Women clean fish upon boards, their knives flashing, scales scattering like coins. Children carry baskets heavy with the day's haul, their clothes damp with brine. The smell of fish clings to lanes, to huts, to markets. It is the smell of sustenance, sharp yet beloved. Each boat carries its own superstitions. Some will not sail on certain feast days, fearing storms. Some paint eyes upon the prow to see dangers before men do. Some tuck relics beneath planks or nail charms against demons of the deep. Words are chosen carefully. Some never say pig aboard a boat. Some never whistle lest they summon gales. Fishermen spit into the sea as offering, or cast the first fish back to ensure more will come. These small acts are as important as nets and oars, for they steady the heart in face of uncertainty. The dangers are always near. A sudden squall can overturn small craft, fog blinds eyes, leaving men lost within sight of their own shore. Waves rise without warning, swallowing boats no larger than a cart. Families wait on land, scanning horizon, listening for bells that do not ring. Some men never return, their names spoken in mass, their nets hanging silent upon cottage walls. Yet still the boats go out. Fear does not end hunger, nor love of the sea. In some places, women and children join the fishing. Coracles, light as baskets, carry one or two at most. Women row with short strokes, set lines for eels or trout, gather shellfish near reeds. Children mend nets, learn to coil ropes, steer when fathers tire. The sea is their schoolroom, stern and generous. By the tie they are grown, the rhythm of tide is written into their bones, the pull of oars into their arms. When the boats return, sails sagging, oars dipping slow, the shoreline stirs. Dogs bark, women wave, children shout. Nets are hauled onto beach, fish spread upon mats, scales shining in sun. Smoke rises from huts where some are smoked or dried. Salt is rubbed into flesh to keep it through winter. The day's labor ends not with landing but with cleaning, gutting, preserving. Only when the last fish is hung or salted does rest come. The boats pull high upon shingle, ready to sleep until dawn calls them again. Thus the fishing boat, small and unadorned, is lifeline of the shore. Without it, hunger gnaws, markets falter, families scatter. With it, life flows steady, though never certain. The sea remains master, yet men and women answer with courage, with skill, with humble craft that has carried generations. In their small boats lies the great story of the sea, that conquest, not discovery, but daily endurance, patient and brave. The rivers of the medieval world are our gentle decorations upon the land. They are roads of water, carrying food, timber, stone, people, and prayer from one place to another. Where land is rutted, muddy, broken by forest or hill, rivers offer a smoother way. Barges, broad and patient, float upon them, heavy with cargo, guided by men whose lives are written in current and tide. To live by a river is to live by a living highway, one that never stands still, one that both gives and takes. A barge, is it graceful like a fishing boat, or proud like a sea cog? It is a workhorse, flat-bottomed, wide, built to carry more weight than speed. Its timbers are thick, its nails hammered deep. The smell of tar clings to its seams, keeping water at bay. Oars are sometimes set upon its sides, long and heavy. Yet more often the barge drifts with current or is hauled by rope from the bank. Some are little more than rafts of logs lashed together, floated downstream until they are dismantled and sold as timber where they land. Others are carefully built craft, passed from father to son, as much a family's livelihood as a plough. Along the towpaths, bargemen walk, shoulders bent, ropes looped about their chests. Horses are sometimes used, plodding steadily, harness creaking, hooves thudding upon earth. The path is narrow, often muddy, lined with nettles and willows. Men call to one another, their voices carrying across water, guiding the barge around bends, warning of shallows. Children too help, barefoot, leaning their weight against rope, their laughter mingled with the splash of oars. The barge moves slow but steady. It does not rush, but it endures, carrying more than any cart upon land. The cargo is endless. Sacks of grain bound for markets, barrels of ale brewed in monastic cellars, millstones so heavy that oxen could never drag them far on land, baskets of wool from Emplin sheep, timber from forests felled in distant hills. Sometimes Eve's stone for cathedrals, quarried miles away, floats upon these barges, each block sweating with moisture, each bound for towers that rise beyond sight. To watch a barge pass is to glimpse the lifeblood of towns and monasteries carried upon the river's back. The Burgesmen themselves are a breed apart. Their hands are thick, their faces browned by sun, their clothes stiff with spray. They walk miles along towpaths, sleeping often upon boards of the barge itself. They eat bread and cheese by the water, wash in its flow, mend ropes by torchlight. Songs rise from them, deep rhythmic chants to keep pace as they haul. Some are coarse, some merry, some half prayers muttered into twilight. They know every bend, every snag, every mill race. To outsiders, rivers seem shifting and treacherous. To bargemen, they are maps written not in ink, but in water. The sounds of rivers fill their lives, the steady splash of poles pushing bottom, the slap of water against hull, the cry of waterfowl, the creak of rope over wood. Mills thunder upon banks, their great wheels turning with groan and splash, feeding flour to towns. Fords echo with hooves of horses and the calls of travelers. Bridges hum with footsteps above while barges slide beneath, shadows moving through arches like slow fish. Night deepens these sounds. Soft lap of water, the croak of frogs, the sigh of reeds stirred by breeze. Yet rivers are not always kind. Floods rise without warning, sweeping barges into trees, drowning fields, dragging cottages down in mud. Ice locks barges in place, grinding against their hulls until planks crack. Sudden storms whip surface into whitecaps, tossing lean broad barges sideways. Bargemen curse, pray, and cling to ropes, their craft groaning as if alive. Sometimes bandits wait upon banks, arrows ready, demanding tolls in coin or cargo. Barges are not swift enough to flee, so bargains are struck. Goods surrendered, curses muttered as the river flows on indifferent. Rivers carry not only goods but people. Pilgrims drift downstream in groups, singing hymns, their bundles piled beside them. Merchants ride with their wares, bargaining even upon the deck. Nobles sometimes travel by barge, their seats cushioned, their servants shading them with cloth. Monks cross from abbey to priory, their habits flapping in wind, their chants echoing strangely upon water. Even the dead may travel by barge, coffins borne solemnly downstream, accompanied by bells tolling from village to village as they pass. Every river has its shrines, small chapels stand upon banks where bargemen pause to light candles. Crosses rise from fords, carved from stone, reminders of those drowned. Villagers bless the water on feast days, throwing herbs and flowers upon its surface. Children are christened at its edge, their cries mingling with gulls and geese. The river is both friend and foe, provider and taker, holy and dangerous. To live beside it is to live in constant respect, never forgetting its strength. Markets cluster where barges unload. Town kais, buses with voices, barrels rolled down planks, sacks hefted upon backs, coins clinking into purses. Dockside taverns smell of ale and fried fish, filled with bargemen boasting of miles covered. Women sell bread to hungry crews, children beg scraps, smiths hammer nails for repairs. Above all, cranes creak, ropes strain, goods shift. The river brings life, and the town hums with it. Without barges, markets starve. With them, wealth flows as surely as water. At dusk, barges are moored, ropes tied to posts, lanterns lit upon decks. Bargemen sit upon boards, eating bread and onion, watching the current slide past. Some sleep beneath rough blankets, rocked by the water's movement. Others wander into towns, seeking warmth, music, company. The river murmurs endlessly, a lullaby harsh yet steady. In morning, ropes are untied, poles set, ropes tightened across shoulders, and the slow march begins again. The barge lives in rhythm as old as tide. To see a barge upon river, is it to see splendor but endurance? Its beauty, is it in speed or grace, but in patience? It carries not the dreams of conquest, but the quiet necessities of life. Grain, timber, wool, stone, all flow by its plodding pace. The medieval river is its background but lifeline, and barges are its humble servants. They remind us that strength lies not always in swiftness, nor greatness in grandeur, but in steady, faithful labor. Where river meets sea, or where cliffs bend to bays, there lie the coastal villages, half turned to land, half turned to water, living always with the sound of waves. To walk their lanes is to smell salt in every breath, to see nets hanging across doorways, to hear gulls crying above thatch and tile. These villages are modest, yet their life is rich with rhythm, fish drawn, boats mended, salt gathered, storms endured. Their people are hardened by wind, browned by sun, yet their laughter carries far, bright against the roar of surf. The cottages lean low, their roofs thatched thick against sea gales, their walls whitewashed with lime, sometimes streaked with tar to keep damp at bay. Nets hang drying upon poles outside, patched and knotted by women whose fingers move as swiftly as any weaver's. Oars rest against walls, tar buckets sit by doors, ropes coil like snakes upon thresholds. Inside, rooms smell of smoke and fish, hearths glow with peat or driftwood, floors are beaten earth worn smooth by boots. Each cottage is both home and workshop, its walls sheltering not only family, but the tools of their survival. Children are never far from the shore. They grow up chasing crabs in rock pools, collecting shells, daring one another into cold waves. By the tide they can walk steady, they can untangle nets, patch holes, coil ropes. Boys learn to row coracles or haul in small lines. Girls carry baskets heavy with mussels or limpets gathered from rocks. Childhood is short here, for hunger waits always, but it is full of laughter nonetheless, their games mingling with labor as naturally as tide with shore. The markets of coastal villages are small but lively. Wooden stalls grown with fish, silver herring, red mullet, flat flounder, wriggling eels. Salted cod hangs stiff in rows. Barrels of pickled herring stand ready for trade. Women shout prices, children dart between legs, dogs nose greedily at scraps. Inland farmers come to swap grain or cheese for fish. Merchants pause on journeys, bargaining for bulk loads to carry to towns. The market smells strong, fish, smoke, salt, sweat. But to those who live here, it is the smell of life itself. Salt is wealth. Along the coast, shallow pans lie in rows, their edges rimmed with wood. Seawater is poured in and left to the sun, slowly shrinking to crystals white and sharp. Men rake it into piles, their skin burned dark by glare, their lips cracked by dryness. Salt is carried inland in baskets, guarded as carefully as coin. Without it, fish would spoil. With it, villages thrive, for their catch to feed even those who live far from sea. Salt makes the ocean portable, carrying its gift deep into land. The seasons mark life sharply here. In summer, seas are generous, nets heavy, markets crowded. Sunlight warms cottages, fish dry easily upon racks. Laughter fills evenings as songs are sung by the shore. In winter, storms rage, boats drag upon anchors, thatch is torn by wind. Men go out less often, and when they do, wives stand long upon the shore, praying until they return. Winter nights are long, filled with the sound of surf battering rocks, and families huddle close, telling stories to drown the sea's roar. Storms are feared above all. Clouds gather dark, wind rises shrill, waves crash white and furious. Boats are dragged up shingle, nets abandoned, shutters barred. The sea turns wild, battering walls, tearing posts, flooding lanes. Sometimes boats are lost, dashed upon rocks before eyes of helpless families. Sometimes whole cottages are swallowed by waves, leaving only splintered beams and sand. Yet when storms pass, villages gather, mend, rebuild. The sea may take, but it also gives, and they will not leave it. Coastal villages are places of superstition and faith. Charms of shells hang by doors, crosses are carved into beams, small shrines stand upon headlands. Fishermen cross themselves before launch. Wives light candles to saints as boats push into surf. Bells ring to warn of fog, their sound muffled and eerie across water. Stories are told of drowned souls walking at night, their voices carried on the wind, their shapes glimpsed in spray. Yet stories of miracles are told too, boats saved by saintly hand, storms stilled by prayer, catches doubled after Mass. Faith and fear live side by side, like sea and land. Evenings are times of fellowship. Fires are lit, smoke rising from every chimney, gulls settling upon rooftops. Families gather in cottages, sharing bread, ale, fish roasted upon spits. Neighbors visit, songs rise, fiddles scrape. Stories of the sea are told anew. Children fall asleep to the sound of waves mingling with lullabies. Outside, nets sway upon poles, boats creak softly in their moorings, and stars wheel bright above the endless water. To live in a coastal village is to live in balance. The sea gives and takes, blesses and curses, nourishes and destroys. Its voice never falls silent, and its power never rests. Yet the people endure, tied to it by hunger, by trade, by habit, by love. They do not tame the sea, they live with it, as with a restless neighbor. Their cottages lean into wind, their nets stretch across waves, their prayers rise with gulls. The coastal village is the edge of land, the beginning of sea, the place where two worlds meet and weave life together. Chapter